History of my oldest ancestors of whom I am very proud descend. May 26, 946, die murdered, Edmund I, the Elder, King of the Saxons, King of England, my 35th grandfather, 3 times my grandfather, 10th grandfather of Dom Afonso III, King of Portugal, my 25th and 26th grandfather. Edmund I the Elder, King of the Saxons, King of England was born in 921, died at Pucklechurch, the 26th of May 946, he was the son of Edward the Elder, King of Wessex, who was born in 871 and died on the 17th of July 946. 924, Anavid paternal grandson of Alfred the Great, King of Wessex, born 849, died 899, an Elisvite, and maternal grandson of Ethelhelm of Wessex, Archbishop of Canterbury, died 923, an Elswether. Edmund I, also called Edmund the Elder, the Just or the Magnificent, was king of the Saxons between 939 and 946, succeeding his brother Æthelstan. Life: Edmund was the eldest son of King Edward the Elder and his third wife, Queen Edgiva, and grandson of King Alfred the Great. After Edward died in 924, he was succeeded by his eldest son, Edmund's half-brother Æthelstan. Edmund was crowned after Æthelstan died childless in 939. Edmund had 2 sons, Edwin and Edgar, with his first wife St. Elgiva of Shaftesbury, my 36th grandmother, 3 times my grandmother, and none with his second wife Ethelflaed. His sons were children when he was killed in a fight with an outlaw at Pucklechurch, Gloucestershire, and was succeeded by his younger brother Edred, who died in 955 and was followed by Edmund's sons in succession. Æthelstan succeeded as king of the Saxons south of the Humber and became the first king of all England when he conquered Viking-ruled York in 927, but after his death, Anlaf Guthfrithson was considered king of York and extended Viking rule to 5 regions of northeast Mercia. Edmund was initially forced to accept the reverse, the first major setback the dynasty the Kingdom of Wessex had suffered since the reign of Alfred, but he was able to regain his position after Anlaf's death in 941. In 942, Edmund regained control of the 5 regions, and in 944 he regained control of all of England when he expelled the Viking kings from York. Edred had to deal with further revolts when he became king, and York was not conquered until 954. Æthelstan achieved a dominant position over other British kings, and Edmund retained his territory, perhaps beyond Scotland. The northern Welsh king, Idwulful, may have sided with the Vikings when he was killed by the English in 942. The British kingdom of Strathclyde may also have sided with the Vikings when Edmund devastated it in 945 and then gave it to Malcolm I, King of Scotland. Edmund continued his brother's friendly relations with continental rulers, several of whom were married to his half-sisters. Edmund inherited his brother's interests and chief advisors, such as Oda, whom he appointed Archbishop of Canterbury in 941, Æthelstan half-king, alderman, and Aelfhe the Bald, Bishop of Winchester. Government at the local level was exercised mainly by aldermen, and Edmund made substantial changes during his reign, with a shift from Æthelstan's main dependence on the West Saxons to a greater prominence of men with Mercian connections. Unlike the close relatives of previous kings, his mother and brother attested to many of Edmund's letters, suggesting a high degree of family cooperation. Edmund was also an active legislator, and 3 of his codes survive. Provisions include those that attempt to regulate feuds and emphasize the sanctity of the royal person. The main religious movement of the 10th century, the English Benedictine reform, reached its peak with Edgar, but Edmund's reign was important at its beginning. He appointed Dunstan abbot of Glastonbury, where he was joined by Ethelwold. They would be 2 of the leaders of the reform and made the abbey the first important centre for its dissemination. Unlike his son Edgar's circle, Edmund did not consider Benedictine monasticism to be the only worthy religious life and also patronized unreformed, non-Benedictine establishments. Death and succession. On May 26, 946, Edmund was killed in a fight at Pucklechurch, in Gloucestershire. According to the post-conquest chronicler, John of Worcester, while the glorious Edmund I, King of the Saxons, was in the royal town called Pucklechurch, trying to save his butler from the attack of a wicked thief, he killed Edmund, on the feast of St. Augustine, on Tuesday, May 26, when completed 5 years and 7 months of reign. Edmund I, King of the Saxons, was taken to Glastonbury and buried by the abbot, St. Dunstan. Historians Claire Downham and Kevin Halloran reject John of Worcester's account and suggest that the king was the victim of a political assassination, but this view has not been accepted by other historians. Like his son Edgar 30 years later, Edmund was buried in Glastonbury Abbey. The location may have reflected his spiritual prestige and royal endorsement of the monastic reform movement, but as his death was unexpected, it is more likely that Dunstan was able to claim the body. His sons were still children, so he was succeeded as king by his brother Edred, who in turn was succeeded by Edmund's eldest son, Edwin. Family and descent. From the first marriage of Edmund I, King of the Saxons, with Saint Elgiva of Shaftesbury, my 36th grandmother, 3 times my grandmother, were born. Eduino. Edgar the Peaceful, King of the Saxons, King of England, my 35th grandfather, 3 times my grandfather, who married Ethelfleda, and then married Ilfrida of Devon, my 35th grandmother, 3 times my grandmother.